What is up, everybody? I am back. The channel has been dark for a while, but after a brief recess, a little intermission in our YouTube comic book channel life, I have returned to you now, and God, it feels really good to be back. And before I get into the subject of today's video, I figure I'll tell you a little bit about where I've been and what I've been doing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in an upcoming video. But the reason I was gone for a while and the channel was dark was I had the opportunity to go to San Diego Comic Con, and I had a table there, and I was selling my comic book, Malevolent Rising. And it was a really fun experience. I'm going to do an entire video talking about my con experience and prepping to hopefully return next year to San Diego. But before, I can really get too far into that, we need to get back to the world of comics and talk about what's going on in comic books today. And where better place to start than the mess that is modern Marvel. And no one in Marvel is quite as big of a mess as the Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, this book, I tell you, I cannot, just when you think this book has jumped the shark and has extended the biggest pulsating middle finger to its own fans it possibly can, it just one-ups itself. And the latest iteration of that is the Amazing Spider-Man 2023 Annual. We're not going to talk about the primary story, which is just a Hallows Eve thing, a holdover from that stupid crossover they did with the X-Men Dark Web. What a pointless, just nothing burger of a story. But yeah, so that was kind of the main thing. But we're going to talk about a backup story and really just an interesting nugget from that backup story. So the backup story in this particular annual is kind of a fallout from the Hellfire Gala. For those of you who didn't see the Hellfire Gala, Orcus and MODOK had figured out a way to weaponize the pharmaceuticals that the mutants had distributed out worldwide. And people who have these pharmaceuticals are now susceptible to this frequency that MODOK and Orcus can put out at any point that they want. They can target as many people as they want. Those people kind of just go crazy and go murderous and kill people and eventually die themselves. And so this story features at Aunt Anna's birthday party, Aunt Mary Jane's aunt. She had the pharmaceuticals and she goes crazy and attacks her party friends. So really the nugget takeaway from the story is it starts off with the birthday party. Everybody's having a good time. And Peter Parker's just sitting there hanging out with Mary Jane and rando husband Paul. And they're just kind of like having a perfectly good time and everything's going as normal. And then Aunt Anna goes crazy. You get a bit of a superhero fight. Peter suits up and they fight Aunt Anna, who's now superhumanly strong. And ultimately what happens is MJ goes and gets a fistful of sleeping pills and she forces them down Aunt Anna's throat and it sedates her and knocks her out. And then Peter and MJ are taking her to Ravenloft where she's going to be held and studied and hopefully cured someday. And Peter says something to her along the lines of, it was a good thing you were able to grab Aunt Anna's sleeping pills. And then MJ gets kind of quiet and stoic and admits to Peter Parker that they are her sleeping pills and that her and Paul have been living with Aunt Anna ever since the death of their children and things aren't going so well. And then Peter, without even acknowledging what's going on, just says, yeah, well, I'm sure Aunt Anna's going to be okay. And that's kind of the end of the scene, implying very strongly that, yeah, Peter doesn't really give two craps about MJ. He's kind of over that entire situation, and they're living their lives as two completely separate beings now. Very, very interesting kind of turn on the, probably most iconic couple that Marvel's got. I mean, who they got that's more iconic than them? You could maybe make an argument for Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman just because they've been the longest. But really, when most people think of Marvel and people think of Spider-Man, they think of MJ, simultaneously. The two of them just kind of go together. And this could be part of an overall arc to somehow get them back together. It's just, again, it's one of those things where it just seems so out of character. That Peter wouldn't drop anything for MJ regardless of their current relationship status. And also it just kind of says something about Marvel's view of Mary Jane as a character that I don't know, that she wouldn't seek out more help than she's getting. I don't know. The whole thing just rung very strange to me, very weird. And it just puts another just kind of exclamation point on the status quo that Marvel really is putting on the Spider-Man books and, the status quo of MJ and Spider-Man's relationship. It's really just kind of hard to read. It really is. And I've said before on the channel, I'm Team Black Cat. It doesn't matter to me overall that he and MJ are broken up. I kind of like him exploring the Black Cat thing, but at the same time, I still would like the book written consistent with its history. Somebody who's been reading Spider-Man since the 300s and has gone back and read even further than that. You kind of know the history of these characters, and I really don't think that Mary Jane would suffer this badly and Peter would just dismiss her like he's been doing. And again, it's just bad storytelling, and I put that back on the editors whose kind of job it is to keep their stories in line, to keep the world flowing. Marvel's really just dropped it. This is just one of the latest examples. And anyway, that's my thoughts. I probably could go on and on for more, but I've got lots of other things to do. I got a lot of catch up. A lot of stuff has happened while the channel was gone. Shoot, we got to talk about all kinds of things. But that's my take on the Amazing Spider-Man Annual. Did you read it? Did you enjoy it? Did you read the stupid Hallows Eve story? What do you think of that character? She got a cool look, but she doesn't really do anything for me, like interest-wise. I don't get her appeal. She just kind of looks like a lady hobgoblin. But let's talk about that in the comments below. While you're down there, do all the usual stuff. Hit like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you so much for hanging around to the end. It really does feel really good to be back. Let's check out a short video, get my feet back into the YouTube pond a little bit, and we'll talk again later. See you then. Bye.